Welcome to Class Reunion, Learning Beyond the Classroom. I'm super excited to run this small series. Yes, I'm saying small because it's a short and limited series of a podcast with myself and some of my former students who have been some of the best folks to learn from in my over 20 years in the education sector. And there was no way that I could ever start a podcast without my partner in crime in education from the very first day of teaching, dare I say, in 2004. Then my husband, Dr. Kevin Bryant.
How are you? How are you doing, everything?
I'm good to see you.
Same.
I feel like I just saw you.
Absolutely.
So we both agree that the world does not need another podcast, but this is a podcast that I really just felt needed to happen. And it was sort of birthed in our 2 a.m. talks or talks at the dining room table. I'm going to be talking to a lot of former students. Some you know, some you don't know. I want to chat a little bit about how we even sort of started our work in education and why you maybe think this type of podcast could be useful to folks thinking about teaching or folks who are doing impact work.
Awesome. Well, listen, one, I'm glad that this is a reality after many conversations. And, I don't know if you guys know, like, she has a ton of ideas. And so this is just one of many ideas that has come up, and actually, like, watching get through fruition and seeing the conversations with your kids is really rewarding and special. So just kudos to you.
Thank you.
For making that happen. 2004 is when we connected in this, both as teaching fellows, and who would know 20 plus years later that we would still be in this field and still have a great love for this field. And so, when I think back in 2004, I was really at a crossroads of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And one part was like going into law enforcement when I was going to go into the NYPD, and the other
Thank
part
God,
was...
Sorry, I said that.
And the other part was going to the teaching fellows. And so, had to make a really critical decision at that juncture. And I love to learn. I thought getting a master's for $5,000 was exceptional during that time. And so I said, why not do that? NYPD will always be there. And so I became a teacher and went through the New York City Teaching Fellows. And little would I know that during that time I would have such a great impact on so many kids. I still remember the first day of teaching and standing in front of 30 plus kids, and was like, damn, like they looking at me right now. I literally have no idea what to do.
And we were babies ourselves. Like, I think I was 21 in my first year teaching. I did my student teaching in Coney Island. I know the school when I see it, but I can't remember the exact place. You did your student teaching?
I actually don't remember. I honestly don't remember where I did my student teaching. Only thing I remember was being in class, and then my first principal coming in there that day and was like, I need 3 teachers, 3 math teachers. And literally I was hired on the spot that specific day to start my career at IS 68, Isaac Bildersee, where I met a ton of great students who I am still in contact with today, but also just a lot of great staff. Like, it was a family during that time,
Yeah, it's pretty interesting and magical when you work inside schools or inside school districts, how we all become family. Like, you have so many life milestones together, baby showers, and, dinners and graduations, and people as they have their first children and weddings. And I think back to many of our own personal milestones, and we have been blessed to have students and former colleagues at all of them.
Yeah. It's so many memories, and it's been really powerful, in my opinion, to watch them grow up, as well as them allowing us and watching us to grow up. And so many of them have become really close friends. And, as long as we've been in this work for 20 plus years, those are some friendships that have also sustained that as well. And so just really grateful to be in this space. I consider it to be extremely powerful for the lives that we continue to touch. And like I said, to see the growth of so many of our students that we touched, it's hundreds to thousands of folks that we impacted in those, single, double period classrooms when we think about teaching inside of colleges and, so on and so forth. We've gone through a number of iterations in this education sector. So just really excited about, one, like I said, this that you're producing here. And like I said, the impact that I know that we had, on a lot of the kids that we engage with.
Yeah, I think when I think about former students I've had, there's usually my number one comes to mind, and she is on the podcast. She's in one of the episodes. And I also think a lot of the adult students that I've had. I know you teach at High Tech High in the winter, and I imagine you're learning things from those students as well.
Yeah, learn a ton from them. One is their love for education and their current fight.
Yeah,
for
like
education.
hunger,
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like we have that and continue to have that, in this space. But to be around them who are still in a classroom, still in the trenches of, leading schools or, wanting to be future leaders within their school communities is really empowering. It allows me and forces me to really come with my A game for each of those classes. Really allows me to put back on that teaching educator hat.
Right.
Because, my goal is to model hopefully what they're, put out for their staff and for their students. And so, it's been really powerful. And I think I've learned so much from, the graduate students that I've engaged with. We do a lot of teaching on the side with just different organizations. And, after each time, it just feels like I just learned something different that allows me to just continue to fill my cup and continue to engage in this work.
Yeah, I think that's true. I am slightly jealous of you because I think you had a former student moment that I've never been able to have. And we love those boys like they are our own to this day.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can't even say boys because they're like whole men with like kids now almost,
Absolutely.
wives and children.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But tell us a little bit about that very special relationship that you have.
Yeah, so, just mentioned, starting my career off at Isaac Builder C. And, one of the really great things that was there was that we got to rotate with our kids. And so.
What do you mean, like?
So, you start with them in 6th grade. And
okay,
in 7th grade.
I think
Loop.
that's what they call it,
There you go,
looping, yeah.
looping. There you go, looping with the kids. And so, one interesting thing about this group of students is that there were 4 brothers that were in the school collectively, and I got to teach 2 of them, David and Alan. And so David was bright kid, so was Alan, extremely bright students. And what was interesting during that time is that I never knew the impact that I had on these particular kids.
You would never know, right? Like we were like 21 years old, didn't know nothing about life.
Absolutely.
Half the time at the club, going straight to work after the club.
After the club,
like we were kids ourselves.
Absolutely. And then, to see it now come back full circle where, we did our doctoral studies at Harvard. And, I remember getting a text message from David. And he's like, I got into Harvard. And I was like, get out of here. And then so, one of the interesting parts about that was that his brother Alan also went there as well. And so got to see both of them while they were there. But what was really interesting about my opportunity and time with David is that we got to graduate together.
Yeah.
And so, we got to see each other in our robes. It's one of the pictures I share regularly when I'm teaching adults and just continue to talk about the full circle moments that we have with the students that we engage with. Because you just never know. And so just to see that come full circle, 2 kids who were, doing their best in Isaac Builder C to actually, walking the halls.
From immigrant families
Absolutely.
who were like really hungry for success. And those boys are so creative and so smart and so brilliant. And to your earlier point, they're inspiring.
Absolutely.
I personally just can never get enough of seeing my former students. When I look at their Instagram pages or look at their TikToks or see them celebrating milestones, it feels so good because you had them. They were like 4'5" if they were kids, right? Yep. Or like some of my doctoral students who are like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to conquer the world, but then they get in my class and they're like, what in the world did this lady do? Because one of the classes that I teach at Fordham is meant to really play with their brains and challenge all of the thinking that they had before. Some people are willing to play, and other folks are like, this lady get on my nerves.
Absolutely. I've been there too, y'all. Just not been in that class as well.
But that class is a lot of fun. One of the things you said was like, you never know what might happen. And I personally actually kind of disagree.
Say more.
I don't ever think about what might or may happen to my kids. And I think it has a lot to do with me. Growing up in the 80s and the 90s in Detroit, there were lots of statistics about who I should have been, who I would become. And my parents chose a specific type of school setting and a certain set of sacrifices to ensure that those statistics about my demographics that were aligned to my demographics would not be a factor, right? That demography would not be destiny. And I think in the classroom, I've taken that approach quite a bit too, because so much of what I've done in classrooms and in schools has been about helping kids shift the trajectory of their life on their own terms.
Absolutely.
And not relying on the research saying kids from this neighborhood with these types of parents or this type of household only become X. I never internalized those narratives as a child, and I, as an adult, have not, and to try not to like put them off on people, because I think a lot of the work has been thinking differently, imagining a scenario, and then like making that come to life.
Yeah.
Just through my imagination. It's a weird thing. I know it's so.
No, it's not weird. It's not weird at all. So I think back to, you know, being in a classroom, and, you know, if I'm speaking to educators out there, we've all had the problem child.
Oh, we
right?
know their first and last name,
we
bro.
know
I can name you like 8 of them
absolutely,
right here.
Absolutely, right. And so you think about, you know, when you're about to take on a new class, and people are like, you got to watch out for that kid who's coming in, and right. And I used to always just feel like, you know, they get a new, fresh start.
Yes.
You know, as they enter into my classroom, into my sphere in which I can control. And I think that ideology has created space and opportunity for kids to thrive.
Yeah.
You know, under my tutelage of teaching mathematics, or at the higher level in terms of college. And so I think to the point that you made about, you know, your zip code.
Yeah,
There
demography and destiny.
There you go, demography.
Shout out to Deborah Jules
there you go.
Sherman. Yeah.
You know, that's a great opportunity for me to be like, I believe in every single child that has walked through those particular doors. And, you know, when I think about like not knowing, you know, what their outcomes could be as they continue to grow into adulthood, I just think about, you know, sometimes there's so many things in external aspects that, you know, as I think about young men, young black women who are out there. And so that's always been a concern of mine, is like, when they're not in my care, what are the things that could potentially be happening to them outside of that? And that's always been a concern of mine. But to your point as well, I love to see their growth on social media. I think that's one of the most powerful pieces of social media, being able to see, you know, former kids, former adults that I got the opportunity to teach, and watching them grow. Like you said, now they have families. They're, you know, with significant partners. They have really great, well-paying jobs.
Yeah, I mean, like, I need a loan.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're driving cars that are like out of control.
Like,
and so,
let me hold the M4, please. Thank you.
Exactly. And so just being able to see them grow and know where they started from, you know, is really, really powerful.
I mean, watching them even just start businesses. I mean, I look at so many. One of my former students is a news anchor, like on a major news platform, which is like, I think it's only shocking if you never thought it could happen. Mm-hmm. I think it is beautiful when you really watch someone bloom into exactly who they should be and have become. I'd love to hear you maybe talk about, you know, in your principalships, I use a S, you know, you've had the most challenging schools. Mm-hmm. You've always had the most challenging neighborhoods. I mean, that's personally what I've always chosen. I think you've made those choices too. In your leadership work, inside schools, inside districts, I'd love to hear, like, what did you learn from those spaces? Because in those spaces, we were sort of leaders, but we're leaders of learning, but also of many adults who are also still learning and figuring things out.
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably the biggest thing that I learned in that space was just modeling excellence.
Yeah.
You know,
what does that mean? Because, you know, people love to say they modeling something, and
absolutely. You know, you got to inspect what you expect. And so
gosh, here come the old. I'm about to run down the whole list. Expect what you expect. Mm-hmm. Keep the main thing the main thing. I don't say that. I don't say that. There's like 500 phrases that everybody who was a principal out of a certain set of years say over and over again. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. It's all good. Like, that's just who I was. And so when I think about, you know, leading schools and leading people, I had to be the model, right? And so in some of those schools that are troubled, one of them was slated to be shut down. One, I had to have belief that, the school would remain open and
That's
that
right.
we can believe in the kids and their capabilities. And two, I had to show what that looked like for a lot of folks who just at that point had given up.
That's right.
And so if that meant that I had to, take over a classroom to teach a lesson, if that meant I need to be out in the hallways to make sure that folks greeted kids in an appropriate way, if that meant that I needed to be in the cafeteria with the lunch people to make sure that they were serving kids the right amount of food and not arguing with them
about
and so
seconds.
on and so forth.
Like, how many arguments have you had with a cafeteria person because they didn't want to give the kids another apple?
That's what I'm saying.
Or another handful of French fries.
This is what I'm saying.
I'm not doing this with you. Can you give the kids some fries?
Give them some extra, man. Yeah. Like, you're not paying for it, right? So that's where it was for me.
Sorry, it's annoying. It's like a thing.
It's absolutely true. And so, like, those are all, like, some of the things that, you had to put in place. And then, obviously, academics are core, making sure that folks could actually teach.
That's right.
Right? And that they were not just teaching, but, like, really teaching in a way that allowed kids to learn.
Soulful.
And be engaged inside the classroom. I remember being in there my first year, and I was like, damn, why are these kids always out in the bathroom? Like, every single time I'm walking down the hallway, and it's, like, more and more kids out there. And I was like, ain't nothing going on in these classrooms.
That's right.
And so once we were able to solve that problem, one, we got rid of a number of folks, who just couldn't cut the bill. And then we brought in some new folks. And I was telling this person, I forget who the other day, this story about, I remember sitting in my office, and this one kid walked in, and he was like, Mister, I see what you're doing.
Aww.
And I was like, what you mean? He was like, you making things happen in here. I see what you're doing. And that was only after 3 or 4 months of being in the role. And so, you think about your impact and decisions that you make as a leader. Like, you got to be quick, got to be swift, and do it to, your core of, like, what you think is right for kids. And I think or for myself, that's what guided me to, ensure that I was leading schools in the right way to be as successful as I was and turn around a few schools. And I hope that leaders can also do that for the schools that they're leading as well.
Yeah. I think it also, like, to lead the types of schools we led in those neighborhoods, in those types of turnaround settings, like deep turnaround with violence and academic issues. There's quite a bit of naivete you gotta have too, right? Like, you gotta really wake up every day and put on the rose-colored glasses.
Absolutely.
Because things could go south really quick if you every day were like, I gotta drag myself in here. No, it was like, we go in, we're gonna have a good day, we're gonna run it up, we're gonna make sure the kids are good, everybody's gonna be happy. But you had to be slightly crazy.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, I look back on some of the things that I did inside classrooms and inside schools, like, they were kind of wild.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be accepted. It wouldn't be accepted today. I'd be fired. I'd have been fired probably.
They were kind of wild.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
also it was necessary. Mm-hmm. Right? And
it was out of love.
It was
out of love.
It was coming from the most loving place, and none of it was ever harmful, if that makes sense. I mean, it's the thing that gives people pause about leadership now. Like, leadership is so risky. Mm-hmm. It feels like you can't make any mistakes. Mm-hmm. And we only do this to leaders sort of that are beneath, dare I say, the president, who are who are beneath certain places. Yeah. And there's just so much capacity that these people need and could have. And I look at the job of the principal now, and it just looks so hard. Yeah. It looks so hard. And I can't imagine doing that job every day without being able to hold on to 7, 10, 20 students who you know that is the reason. Like, when you have a student go off to choke from East New York, you're kind of like, that is absolutely the reason. Right? I wonder a lot about my own childhood if my former teachers look and say, like, yeah, that was a little girl who smelled like kerosene with a dirty face. Mm-hmm. She had straight A's, though, and look at her now, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think what's critical about that as well is I think back on my childhood and having some adults who really cared about me. And it started really early, you know, and I remember some of my 3rd, 4th grade teachers who held me accountable, right? One teacher in third grade sent me to summer school. She was like, yo, you need to get this together, and I'll never forget that. And then, in seventh grade, it happened again. Another teacher who really cared about.
Wait, so you went to summer school in third
Yeah, I
grade,
went to
but
summer
ended
school.
up getting skipped a grade later?
Yeah. So that's what she saw,
Wait,
a lot
so-
of us, yeah, absolutely.
So you got held over in third grade.
No, I didn't get held over. No. Whoa.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get held
Okay,
over.
sorry.
I just
Clarify.
went to summer school.
Oh.
I didn't get held over. You know what I'm saying? Like, not at all. Catch that one. I didn't get held over. But she made me go to summer school because I wasn't doing the best that she thought that I could be doing at that point in time, and thought
We call that half-assing.
Yeah, you go. Well, yeah, that's what it was. It is what it is. And
Yeah.
so, she unlocked the potential in me. Miss Poyser, I'll give you a shout. She passed away a few years ago, but she unlocked the potential in me to continue to thrive in elementary school, which afforded me the opportunity to skip a grade, right? To enter into high school at the age of 13 and graduate at the age of 16. And so if it wasn't for that one individual there who saw potential in me in that moment and made that shift, I don't know where I would have been, and I think about us, and all that we've done for so many kids and so many families, like how many pivotal moments that would have been, from giving a kid a hoodie or having a pantry open and giving them some
with
snacks.
a bag of clothes.
Or giving the Thanksgiving celebrations that we used to do.
Or gift cards to teachers. I mean, the number of teachers, I would just slide a Banana Republic gift card or slide a gift card to Old Navy, because you need work clothes.
Absolutely.
And you can't afford work clothes on this salary that actually make you feel confident.
Absolutely. And so you think about those small micro movements that we've done for our educators and for our teachers, what that translated into the classroom.
That's right.
Right? And so you think about those leadership moments, those are the micro moments that sometimes we take for granted.
That's right.
But we know we did it out of one love for our school community overall. And so there's so many lessons that's involved in this. And like I said, we can even think about teachers as some of our students,
I have so
right?
many. Oh my God. And so many of my former students who were students who are now teachers, and so many of my former teachers who stuck with it.
Absolutely.
And are leading really fantastic work. We'll hear from on the podcast one of my former students who services close to 400 schools in the city.
Wow.
Teaching children chess.
Wow. Oh, chess.
It is. I mean, I'm so full thinking about him. I mean, he is really changing New York City with just this one thing. And he's also changing his family, because the family are the people who are working within the organization. It is beautiful. Can't wait for that episode to come out. So we are math people, right? I guess. I mean, I think everybody's a math person.
I don't know if I'm a math person anymore, but
I think
I'll take that.
You're a math person.
I'll take
come
that.
on.
That's all good. Take it.
So I'm super passionate about math and access to the right math sequence. This is like my soapbox, my thing.
Yep. She's running her campaign on that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What did you learn as a math teacher about your own relationship to math, relationship to numbers, relationships to logic, because you were a coder?
Yeah.
What did you learn? What do you feel like you learned?
Yeah, it all started at coding, right? With the tech
Zeros
boom.
and ones, binary.
The tech booms and really getting to math. I went into calculus 3. I don't know how much higher you need to go into calculus, but whatever it is.
I did calc 3. That was enough.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever it was, I went there. That was the highest that could be. And one of the things that math has taught me is about logic and sequential, the way that things can and should be ordered, right? It also allows the opportunity to think about things in various ways to still get to the right answer. And so when you think about working inside of a classroom and kids are struggling, or some kids are succeeding, we try to, put kids into a box in terms of how do we get the right answer? But it's there are multiple ways that we can all find a pathway to getting to the right answer.
That's right.
And that's a metaphor for life, right? We may have this box that we think about students in, and it's no, they have pathways, and they're going to figure out pathways along the way to get whatever destination that they need to get into. And so I think around math and my kids working in the math classrooms and me working with students, that's always been a little bit of the way that I taught. I always try to make it fun.
Yeah.
And so we think about the sequential learning of math and how, right or wrong math could be. There's also a ton of opportunities to really make it fun and engaging. And so this was also when we were teaching, sorry for giving out this age, but it was the era of smart boards. When smart boards was first coming out. It's like all
But it
moving
never
on things.
actually worked like it was
Yeah,
supposed to,
but
bro.
yeah, you just
Like
wrote on.
it
It's
was
just an extra
always missing
chalkboard.
an HDMI cord, or it couldn't be plugged in.
Yep.
Sorry, shout out to maintenance. Like it's always a problem.
Word
Bro.
up. So yeah, so that was another thing that was just new.
Wait, and they were
to
totally
kids.
supposed to be on the wall, but like
Not
they
at
took
all.
up like
Not at
7
all.
feet
Yep.
of classroom
Yep.
space, which is a lot in New York City. Anyway, sorry.
And
Go
you
ahead.
had mine rolled in and out the classroom. So
Yeah.
people used to
You had
take
to
it
share
back and
with
forth.
somebody.
Yeah, share with somebody.
Yeah.
It's just all the resources, right? And so those are the things where you think about instruction, particularly math instruction, how to make it more engaging for kids. And I just think about how not rigorous, but like how routine it was when I was learning math as a kid. It was just like, this is how you got to do it.
Oh, you mean like
away.
drilling
Yeah,
and
yeah,
algorithmic
absolutely.
versus like really like understanding the
Absolutely.
concept and learning how to be nimble with
Absolutely.
it. Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
that is what I appreciate about how math is taught more contemporary, like in the contemporary space, that we're not stuck like figuring out, well, if I don't move this way, but then I got to move this. No, you can actually do it however you want.
Absolutely.
And see if it gets you there.
Absolutely.
I also think, for me personally as a child, math had answers when my life didn't. Nothing make sense. Still don't make sense. You know how my family is, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I
so,
don't know.
come on. But, math had answers when life didn't. And that made a big difference for a person who, I am 100% cerebral most of the time. Like a person that lives in her head and is in her brain. So yeah, math is a very special thing.
When you think about math and you think about some of the guests that you have on this podcast, were there any students that like really stood out to you as like great mathematicians?
All of them. All of them. Yeah. With the exception of my student who was one of my doctoral students, I taught math to all of them. And actually all of them, I taught advanced mathematics. So they were 11, 12 years old learning trigonometry. And the ideology at the time, this was Fort Greene, early 2000s, right? So the ideology at the time was that if we accelerate these kids and we make sure they have at least, an earth science regents, a math regents under their belt, when they get to high school, they'll be good, right? Like, so you've already finished your freshman, sophomore, and junior level mathematics as a freshman in high school. That's huge.
Yeah.
Because high school is challenging.
Absolutely.
There's so many different distractions and things you might want to get into, and it's just not easy. I mean, we've seen it with our own kid.
Yeah.
Who, people are always like, well, how do you parent? How do you, how are your kids?
We have no instruction manual on this.
And, it's funny because I actually think so we have a 15 and a 9-year-old, 16 and shortly in a few
3 weeks.
And I think people would be surprised by our parenting style, particularly.
Would they really?
I think
don't
so.
know. They watch our Instagram too, and it's a little.
Our kids I think they would be surprised that we are not regimented around like, you have to be reading for an hour and a half. Like you have to take a shower. Like you have to go to bed. Like, I think our parenting style is just, I don't know, what would you call it?
I don't know. I call it trauma from my own. So that's what I'm going to call it. When my parents was like, you got to go to bed and eat this and you can't leave the table and so on and so. I didn't want all that for my kids. Like, I think if we are able to teach them, to figure out things in their childhood, then hopefully adulthood would be a little easier for them. And so I think that's where it is for me. And I would say the trauma from childhood was more than enough for me not to lay out on my kids and how my expectations for them.
I just don't want to control them.
Yeah.
I feel like they're humans and God made them as full humans and that they should come to the world and be exactly who they feel and need to be. And our role as their parents is just to be guidance.
Yeah.
Right? Not to force anything. Oh, you don't want to shower?
Yes.
When that little girl told him he needed
stink.
deodorant, what did he do the next day?
He was showering every day.
Every day, right?
Every day.
And those are natural consequences that make a difference. And it doesn't have that mute of your parents saying it over and over and over, and you just doing it because mama says so.
Yeah.
Nah, you doing it because you stink, bro.
Absolutely.
So, I know that's a very different style than people would ever think educators have for their children. I think I personally will say that I think of education in every part of their life. The places we go,
Yeah.
the things they bring up, the topics we talk about, the movies we're doing, the museums, the walks, whatever we're doing, I think it's an opportunity for them to learn something. I
Yeah.
don't know. What do you think of that?
I completely agree, and I think they learn a lot from us. So in the opening of the podcast, you talked a little bit about like these are our 2 a.m. talks,
Yeah.
right? Where most people may turn on a TV show and may fall asleep to a TV show, which we do
Sometimes,
every now and
yeah.
then. And then there's another part where we're actually like formulating like what is the next thing to.
Yeah.
In Pinky and the Brain sense, like take over the world
I started
in a way.
recording those conversations because
Right,
I'll be having some good
right,
ideas. I know
absolutely.
you was trying to shade all the ideas I'll be
Not at
having,
all, not at
but they're
all.
good. They're good.
They're all right. They're all right.
Most of them are lucrative, bro.
And
Don't
so-
lie. Don't
and
lie.
and that's the part about it, right? And so as we're brainstorming ideas and thinking about ways to make the world better,
Yeah.
our kids are also listening to us.
That's true.
Have some of those conversations when they're not happening at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
in the morning. Maybe it's at the dinner table where we're just sitting.
I would
there
say
just-
we have a traditional dinner table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, and I've tried to be intentional about that.
And that,
There's
it's our
no
family
phones.
time. Yeah, there's no phones or anything like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And it's an opportunity for the kids to share some of their thoughts and aspirations.
What, like Kinsley saying, we're not going to talk about the state of the world?
Yeah, exactly. And and that's where it is. Or we go to our neighbor's house, we have the circle of the table of
round
truth, the
table.
round table of truth, right? And so
Yeah.
we're engaged in so many conversations in our household and outside of our household about the state of New York City, the state of our tri-state area, and the state of the world. And so I think about a lot of those things were, in my opinion, for me,
Adult conversations when we were kids. I
right,
don't know if
correct.
that was.
We had to stay out of it, right? And when we were teaching and engaging, we didn't have I would say those lines were beginning to become blurred.
That's right.
I
think it had a lot to do with our age.
Yeah, absolutely, right. Like I'm teaching at the age of 23.
Yeah.
And I'm coming in there with Jordans on.
Exactly.
And the kids is like, "Oh, you look fly, mister," but it was a way to connect with them.
That's right.
In that way
We had to change that, though.
We did have to change
Okay,
that.
but yes,
We could
okay.
talk
We'll
about
talk
it
about
on another
that later.
podcast. But I got it together. I got it together. And being able to really connect with them on their level, allowed them to express themselves
That's right.
in different ways. And I don't know about you, but I remember being in my classroom, and the last bell of the day would ring, and kids wouldn't leave my room.
Yeah.
Like they would just sit there.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, y'all ain't got nowhere to go. It's like, no, we gonna sit here. And that's when I realized the amount of influence that I had over the kids. Like they didn't want to disappoint me, right? Like they wanted to, make sure that they were doing their best. They wanted to make sure that they were around, and if they weren't there, they let me know. This is what was happening in my life why I couldn't be.
It was like a caring curiosity, right?
Yeah.
Like they were curious about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like, but it had a care behind it. But then sometimes it had a little funk on it. Like, I don't feel like being bothered with you today, miss. But then I come in my office at the end of the day, and
They're
there's
right there.
7 of y'all
Yep.
sitting around the
Right
conference
there.
table talking about what was you doing outside, miss?
Yep.
Like we was waiting for you. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
right there. So
yeah.
I think about all these small stories
Yeah.
that are at play where, like I said, we didn't know what we were doing and what impact that it would have. We just knew that there would be an impact. And so when I think about this podcast and it being, thought of at a 2 a.m., brainstorming session, what got you to this point to be like, you know what, I'm actually going to move forward with this? I would love to hear a little bit about that.
Well, that's a hard question. I'll try to answer. I have been fortunate to sort of defy a lot of odds, personally and professionally. Statistically, who I should have been is nowhere near where I am. And in fact, probably once I surpassed those statistics, I kind of was like, oh, what do I do now? It's kind of like when I set a wild goal and said, I'm going to have a doctorate by 40, it's like, oh, I have it. Now what do I do? And I think I have learned so much from being a teacher, and a teacher across many dimensions of my life, that I want to make sure that people who choose this profession understand the delicacy of children's lives, of their brains, of their futures, the fragility of it all. Because it's more than just a curriculum in a box, a PowerPoint or a Canva presentation up to just present to kids. It's not about presenting or sharing or imparting knowledge. To me, teaching is about being heart to heart with children, with real people who, in my professional space, always lived in situations that they had no control of. And that was, also my own personal journey as a child. And so doing this podcast, I feel, is a expression of gratitude to those children and their families. It is an expression of gratitude for me, to the universe, for giving me the gifts to be able to do this type of work. The moment I set foot in a classroom, I noticed a voice in myself that was meant to be there. And the challenges that I've had in my life, along with the credentials that I have, are a mismatch. And I want every child that ever feels that mismatch, that tension between like poverty and privilege, that tension between being smart and incredibly poor, that tension between living in an all-black city but knowing you got to flip to 100% code switch when you go to school every day. All of those tensions are real. And I want every kid to know that it's safe to have and live through those, because you still live through them in your adulthood. And so doing this, I think, is a thank you for the most valuable experiences that have shaped me as a human.
Oh, that's amazing. And so, it's an opportunity. Like I said, this is a learning for me as well to have this dialogue. And so this is a little bit about what happens, during conversations that we have, whether in a car or elsewhere. And, I'm just getting to learn a little bit more about this podcast as being the first guest. And so we've been, going back and forth. But I would love to learn a little bit more about, so how many students did we select?
I don't remember exactly. Maybe 6 or 8. I can't remember.
Six or eight students. And so when you think about this particular podcast, what do you want the average listener to walk away with?
The impact is not always far away. There are some jobs that you do and you just sort of, maybe you're packing cans or you're packing boxes. You just pack the box and leave. This is a job where, you finish teaching 6th grade, you could be walking down the street tomorrow and that kid yells your name, Miss Vinyard.
You ain't gonna remember that sometimes.
And you be like, oh, hey. Yeah. But there's always someone watching. Absolutely. Right? And it's not just about those single interactions, it's about your aggregate humanity and how you show up. So I hope that folks enjoy this. And the episodes will be forthcoming.
Oh, that's amazing.
Thank you for coming today.
No worry. I'm excited for Clash for Union. Like I said, it's been something that's been a brainchild in different spaces. And so I'm glad to just see this actually happen. I'm excited to see the interviews. I know many of the faces that are connected to it. And I just, hope others who are engaging in this will enjoy the opportunity, hopefully be inspired as well by some of this work. So thank you for having me on, and thank you for doing this.
Appreciate you.